In this video, we'll do our blueprint review for the theory test. Our review will cover modules 1 through 10. In lesson number 1, we were introduced to the 6 main orthographic views. We talked about the glass box theory and using planes of projection. So our 6 main views were front, top, right side, left side, bottom, and back. The 3 that we see the most often are front, top, and right side. And our drawings that we looked at used mainly third angle projection. If we have a slanted or a curved surface that we need to get the true size and shape for, we can use an auxiliary view. To find out what's going on inside of a part or within another view, we can use a section cut. So section cut opens the part or the view up for us to see what's happening inside of it. Always follow the direction of the arrows and read the labels. Our alphabet of lines, we went through all of those, beginning with our object line. And don't forget your border line. You always have to have them outside of your drawing. You should have 4 of them to make sure you have your complete drawing. And the one sometimes people get mixed up on or forget about is your leader line. So your leader line is for your notes. So on your theory exam, you might get a small drawing with a bunch of different line types on it that you will have to identify. In lesson number 3, we looked at dimensioning. So the purpose of dimensions are to give the size and location of the part and its features. This is an example of continuous versus staggered dimensions. Continuous dimensioning is the preferred method because it keeps your drawing much neater and easier to read. Okay, so we also have aligned versus unidirectional dimensioning. In aligned dimensioning, the numbers are turned so that they line up with what you're dimensioning. In unidirectional, the numbers just all read in one direction. And when possible, we want to use baseline dimensioning to keep our tolerances from stacking up. Feature to feature dimensioning will be used when it's important that those parts interface with another part. In lesson number 4, we looked at information blocks. So all the other things that are going on your drawing, aside from your views and dimensions. So our first one was our title block. So our title block identifies what our project is, what revision it's at, that you have all the drawing sheets, all of that information is on your title block. It's usually the bottom right-hand corner of your drawing. And another one of the information blocks that we spoke about were revision blocks. So revision blocks highlight any changes that have been made to a drawing after it's been released. So you'll have a little triangle with a number in it as a call out. And if they're really nice, they'll put a bubble around the area that they changed on the drawing. So in lesson number 5, we talked about the drawing set divisions. There's 4 main ones: architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, ASME. If it's a big project, they'll include plumbing separately. Otherwise, it will be included in mechanical. So we said that detailed drawings give you all the information you need to produce one part. Whereas an assembly drawing identifies how multiple parts fit together. And anytime you have an assembly drawing, you have to have a parts list or a bill of material, a BOM. They're usually on your first sheet up above your title block. Unless it's a large project, then it can have its own sheet as well. So it's always going to have an identifier number that matches to your drawing, the name of the part, how many are required. And your drawing will have to have these balloon callouts that match back to your bill of material identifier part number. In lesson number 6, we looked at scale. So we had an enlarged scale where we took something little and blew it up. We had a reduced scale where you take something big and make it smaller. And we have 1-to-1 for true size. We had metric scales and imperial scales. Metric scales give us the value for each of the tick marks at the end of the scale, whereas the imperial scales, we have to read the feet, and then at the end of it we have to read the inches. So we had to figure out how many of those tick marks made up one 12-inch ruler so that we could figure out how many inches there were. So in lesson number 7, we talked about specifications. So we said a specification is supplemental information to the drawing. Depending on the size of the project, it might just be included in the drawing set, or it could be its own booklet. Specifications, when we look at the hierarchy of drawing information, so up at the top we have our code, then we have our architect, then we have any changes, then we have our specifications, and at the bottom is the drawings. So your specifications, we said, overrule your drawings. Specifications are usually broken up into 16 divisions, we said. The first one is general, and then the divisions afterwards were all things like mechanical, electrical, and other materials. And we began to look at some diagrams and schematics. Second part in lesson 7, we looked at pictorial drawings. So lesson number 1, we covered orthographics, front view, top view, right side view. But in lesson 7, we learned about 3 types of pictorial drawings: oblique, isometric, and perspective. In an isometric drawing, an edge faces you, and the receding lines go back at 30 degrees. In an oblique drawing, you have a true face towards you, so the front view, for instance, is straight on towards you, and your receding lines go back at an angle, a constant angle, usually 45 degrees. And in a perspective drawing, none of the sides are true size or shape, but the lines recede back to a vanishing point. So in lessons 8, 9, and 10, you did a lot of work with electrical diagrams and schematics and different types of electrical drawings. You had a lot of symbols there. So one thing to remember when you have drawings is to always look at your legend for symbols. But out of all of those symbols you've encountered in those final lessons, I've put together a list of the ones for you to focus on memorizing so that you know what they are for your theory test. So the ones you see here on this slide, it's either screenshotted or printed out or something, but these are the symbols that you'll have to know for your theory exam. We mentioned how to use reference bubbles if you have a big set of drawings to find your way through it. And remember to read the labels on your drawings to help you find what you need. So in this case, the number on the top is the name of the view, and the number on the bottom is the pages it's called out on, so where you'd go to see them. So that's our review of our Blueprints course, modules 1 through 10.